Her mother-in-law mocked her at dinner. "We only invited you out of pity. Don't stay long." Her husband's brother laughed. "She's a failure." They invited her to the New Year's dinner just to humiliate her. She only smiled, took a sip of her drink, and quietly left. 1 week later, the family cabin was sold. The joint accounts were closed. Then the bank statements started arriving. "Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome back to Mr. Peter Stories, your own family story channel. Heavenly God, today we come to you with humble hearts. Please pour your mercy, protection, and divine strength upon every soul listening to this prayer. Cover our homes with peace, our minds with clarity, and our lives with purpose. Remove fear, remove sorrow, and replace every worry with unshakable hope. Lord, I lift every woman in this family into your holy hands. Give her strength when she feels tired, courage when she feels unheard, and honor for every silent sacrifice she makes. She is the backbone of families, the keeper of love, the quiet warrior who holds generations together. Bless her health, protect her heart, reward her patience, and surround her with respect everywhere she goes. May no woman here ever feel small, forgotten, or alone, because you see her, you value her, and you crown her with dignity. Bless this family with unity, heal what is broken, restore what is lost, and guide us forward together. Let kindness rule our words, love guide our actions, and faith lead our future. May 2026 be a year of strength, healing, and answered prayers for every one of us. My beautiful family, if your heart is true, like the video. If your love is real, write, "I am with Mr. Peter." Let's start with love. Tamsin Barron stood in front of the mirror, her fingers trembling as she fastened the pearl necklace. The clasp was stubborn tonight, or maybe her hands were just shaking too much. She tried once, twice, 3 times before it finally clicked into place. Her grandmother Essie had given them to her on her wedding day 3 years ago, 3 months before cancer took her from this world. Tamsin could still feel Essie's warm hands on her shoulders that morning, could still see her reflection beside hers in this same mirror, both of them crying happy tears. "Baby girl," Essie had said, her voice rich and strong, even at 83, even with death already settling into her bones. "These pearls survived slavery. They survived Jim Crow. They survived my mama's heartbreaks and her mama's heartbreaks before that. They survived 3 failed marriages of my own, 2 world wars, and more grief than any piece of jewelry should have to witness." She'd touched Tamsin's face then, her palm papery but gentle. "They'll survive whatever comes next, and so will you. I love him, grandmother, so much it scares me." "I know you do, baby, and he loves you. I can see that clear as day, but love ain't always enough." Essie's eyes, still sharp and knowing despite everything, had held something in them that morning. Something that looked like worry, like prophecy. Sometimes people love you and still hurt you, not because they mean to, but because they're too weak to protect you from the people who do mean to. His family will come around. Carrie says they just need time to adjust. Essie had kissed the top of her head, long and lingering, like she was trying to leave her love imprinted there forever. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But you remember this, baby girl. You are Essie Barron's granddaughter. You come from a line of women who survived things that should have killed them. You are oak, not willow. You hear me? Oak. Don't let nobody make you bend until you break. I won't, grandmother, I promise. Promise me on these pearls. Promise me on my grave. Promise me that if they try to make you small, you'll remember who you are. You'll remember whose blood runs in your veins, and you'll save yourself even if it means walking away from love." Tamsin had promised. With tears streaming down her face, wearing her grandmother's pearls and her white dress, she'd promised. Now, 3 years later, standing alone in the apartment she'd lived in by herself for 8 months, Tamsin finally got the clasp closed. The pearls were warm against her skin, like they carried Essie's love and fury inside them, like they were whispering, "Remember, remember who you are." Her phone buzzed on the dresser. Nia, "Girl, please don't go. You know it's a trap. You know they invited you just to hurt you. Stay home. We'll order takeout. Watch movies. Forget they exist." Tamsin knew Nia was right. 8 months since Carrie moved back into his mother's house. 8 months of him claiming they needed space to figure things out, while he figured out absolutely nothing. 8 months of silence broken only by awkward texts about whose name was on what bill, who was responsible for what payment. 8 months of sleeping alone in their bed, wondering what she'd done wrong, wondering how love could evaporate so quickly, wondering if she'd ever been loved at all, or if she'd just been tolerated. Then yesterday, the text from Jolene, Carrie's mother. "New Year's dinner, 7 p.m., family only. Don't bring anything." But Tamsin had brought something anyway. She looked at the sweet potato pie cooling on her kitchen counter. Her grandmother's recipe, the one that took all day to make properly. You had to bake the sweet potatoes slow, peel them by hand, mash them until they were perfectly smooth, brown sugar and cinnamon and nutmeg and just a hint of vanilla, a crust so flaky it melted on your tongue. Essie used to say, "Baby girl, you can't make people love you with food. Lord knows I tried with my second husband, rest his soul. But you can show them who you are. You can show them you were raised right. You can show them that even when they treat you like dirt, you still know how to be gold." Tamsin picked up the pie, still warm from the oven, grabbed her keys, looked one more time in the mirror. She wore the blue dress, the one Carrie used to love, the one he'd said made her eyes look like the sky just after a storm passes. She wore her hair natural, the way Essie had taught her to love it, even though Jolene had made comments. So many comments. "Have you thought about straightening it? Just for church? Just for family photos? Just to look more professional?" She wore her grandmother's pearls. She wore her dignity like armor, because she was Essie Barron's granddaughter, and dignity was all she had left. The drive to Jolene's house took 23 minutes. Every red light felt like a warning sign from the universe. Turn back. Go home. Save yourself. But Tamsin kept driving because some part of her, some stupid, hopeful part of her, still believed in miracles. Still believed that maybe Carrie had found his spine. Maybe he'd finally told his mother to respect his wife. Maybe this dinner was an olive branch. Maybe love would be enough after all. When she pulled up to the house, every window was blazing with light. Cars lined both sides of the street. She could hear laughter and music spilling out into the cold January night. Voices, lots of voices. Her stomach dropped like a stone in deep water. This wasn't an intimate family dinner. This was a party, a crowd, an audience. Nia was right. This was a trap. Tamsin sat in her car, hands gripping the steering wheel, pie balanced on the passenger seat, and seriously considered turning around. She could text some excuse, say she was sick, say her car broke down, save herself the humiliation of whatever they had planned. But then she thought of Essie, thought of her grandmother sitting in the front pew at church, praying loud enough for God and everyone to hear, "Lord, give my grandbaby strength, not the strength to endure, but the strength to know when to walk away. Give her courage to see her worth when other folks can't see it. And Lord, give her the good sense to save herself." Tamsin touched the pearls at her throat. They were warm, almost alive. "You are oak, not willow," she whispered to herself, words her grandmother had said 1,000 times. She got out of the car. The January air bit at her face. Her heels clicked on the driveway. The pie felt heavy in her hands, an offering to gods who would never accept her no matter what she brought. The door opened before she could knock. Darren stood there, Carrie's older brother, wearing a smirk that made her skin crawl. Well, 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 she actually came. He turned back toward the house and yelled, loud enough for everyone inside to hear, "Mama, your charity case is here!" Laughter erupted from inside the house. Cruel laughter, the kind that draws blood. Tamsin's hands tightened on the pie dish, but she didn't turn around, didn't run. She lifted her chin, straightened her shoulders, and walked past Darren into the house like she had every right to be there, because she did. She was Carrie's wife, no matter how much they wished she wasn't. The living room was packed with people, cousins she'd met once at the wedding and never saw again. Jolene's church friends, the ones who smiled to her face and whispered behind her back. Neighbors who'd probably heard all about Carrie's situation from Jolene's careful, poisonous words. Everyone stopped talking when Tamsin entered. All of them turned to stare. She felt their eyes on her like knives. And there, in the corner by the fireplace, holding a glass of something amber, was Carrie. He looked terrible, thinner than she remembered. His hair needed cutting. There were shadows under his eyes. He was wearing the green sweater she'd given him last Christmas, the one he'd said was his favorite, the one he'd worn on their anniversary before everything fell apart. Their eyes met across the room full of people who hated her. For just a moment, she thought she saw something there. Regret, love, pain, longing. Then Jolene appeared, stepping directly into Tamsin's line of sight, blocking her view of her own husband. "Tamsin, how nice of you to come." Jolene's voice was honey drizzled over ice, sweet and cold and deadly. "And you brought something. How sweet, even though I specifically said not to bring anything." "It's my grandmother's recipe," Tamsin said, her voice steady even though her heart was racing. "I thought, how thoughtful." Jolene took the pie from Tamsin's hands without asking, holding it away from her body like it might contaminate her. "We'll put this in the kitchen, with the other contributions." She said contributions the way other people said trash. Tamsin followed Jolene into the kitchen, watching as her grandmother's pie, the one that took all day, the one made with love and hope and the last shreds of her dignity, was placed on the counter, far away from the other desserts, separate, different, other. When they returned to the living room, Jolene clapped her hands together, sharp and commanding. "Everyone, dinner's ready. Please, find your seats at the table." People started moving toward the dining room in a wave of conversation and laughter. Tamsin looked for Carrie again, but he'd disappeared into the crowd, or maybe he'd disappeared on purpose, unwilling to face her. She followed everyone else, her grandmother's pearls heavy around her neck, and realized, with a sick, sinking certainty, exactly what kind of night this was going to be. This wasn't reconciliation. This was execution. Chapter 2. The dinner. They seated Tamsin at the far end of the table, as far from Carrie as physically possible, while still technically being in the same room. She was wedged between two cousins she'd never met, young men who looked at her with barely concealed contempt, like she was something unpleasant they'd found on the bottom of their shoes. Jolene positioned herself at the head of the table like a queen on her throne. She wore purple tonight, royal purple, with matching earrings that caught the light every time she moved her head. Carrie sat to her right, close enough for Jolene to reach over and touch his arm every few minutes. Possessive, claiming him, making sure everyone in the room knew who he really belonged to. Darren's wife, a woman named Candace with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue, was already talking before people had fully settled into their chairs. "So, I was telling Darren, we really should take the boat out more often. 26-footer. Has a full cabin and everything. Cost a fortune, but it's worth every penny. We're thinking about taking it down to the coast this spring, maybe spending a whole week on the water. Darren says if the business does well this quarter, we might even upgrade to something bigger." She paused, her eyes sliding to Tamsin with calculated cruelty. "You and Carrie should come with us sometime." "Oh, wait." She laughed, high and false. "Are you two still... is that still... What's the situation exactly?" We're working things out, Tamsin said quietly, hating how small her voice sounded. Are you, though? Jolene's voice cut across the table like a blade. Carrie's been living here for 8 months now. 8 months, Tamsin. That seems pretty worked out to me. That seems pretty final. Laughter rippled around the table. Small, mean laughter. The kind that makes you feel like you're back in middle school, surrounded by people who've already decided you're the one who doesn't belong. Tamsin's fingers tightened on her fork, the only weapon she had. Jolene stood, her chair scraping against the floor. Everyone fell silent. Let's say grace, she announced. Everyone bowed their heads. Tamsin bowed hers too, out of habit, out of the training Essie had given her about respecting other people's homes, even when they didn't respect you. Dear Lord, Jolene began, her voice carrying that particular tone people use when they're performing prayer instead of actually praying. We thank you for this food. We thank you for this family, for those who truly belong here, and for those who are just visiting, just passing through, just here temporarily. She paused, and Tamsin felt Jolene's eyes on her even through closed lids. Bless those who know their place in this world, and give wisdom to those who don't. Give them clarity, give them understanding, give them the grace to accept reality. Amen. Amen, the table chorused. Tamsin didn't say it. Her throat was too tight. Her eyes were burning. She kept her head bowed an extra few seconds, fighting for composure. When she looked up, Carrie was staring at his plate like it held the secrets of the universe. Dinner dragged on like a slow death. The ham was dry, sawdust in her mouth. The potatoes were cold. The green beans were overcooked. Or maybe everything tasted like ashes because shame has a flavor, and Tamsin was drowning in it. Nobody touched her sweet potato pie. It sat on the counter in the kitchen, visible through the doorway, untouched, rejected, like her. Darren leaned back in his chair, gesturing with his wine glass, already on his third pour. So, Mama, tell everyone about the expansion plans. Carrie and I have been talking about it. Really exciting stuff. Carrie nodded, finally speaking, his voice rusty from disuse. We're thinking about adding a garden center to the back of the store. Dad always wanted to do that. He used to talk about it all the time. Your father wanted a lot of things, Jolene said, her voice suddenly sharp, angry. Doesn't mean they all made sense. Doesn't mean they were all good ideas. Tamsin watched Carrie's face shut down at the mention of his father. That look he always got whenever Jolene talked about her dead husband. Like a door slamming closed, like a light going out. Carrie's father had been kind to Tamsin. He'd welcomed her, defended her in small ways, when Jolene's cruelty became too obvious to ignore. And then he'd died suddenly, a heart attack at 62, and Tamsin had lost her only ally in this family. I think it's a great idea, Tamsin offered, trying to support her husband, trying to be a wife. Your dad talked about it constantly. He said people need a place to grow things, especially during tough times. He said gardens give people hope. The table went completely silent. Jolene set down her fork with a deliberate, heavy click. Her eyes, when they turned to Tamsin, were pure ice. Well, thank you for that input, Tamsin. How generous of you to share your thoughts on family business. But I don't think you quite understand how these things work. This is Lemon family business. This is about our legacy, our store, our decisions. I don't think you quite grasp the complexity of what we're discussing here. I understand just fine, Tamsin said, her voice still quiet but firmer now. I worked in finance. I understand business. Did you? Jolene's eyebrows rose. I thought you quit your job, gave up that career. What was it you've been doing for the past 2 years? Remind me. The cruelty was so naked now, so obvious. Nobody was even pretending anymore. I quit because, Tamsin started. Because it was too much for you? Jolene interrupted. Because you couldn't handle the pressure of both a career and a marriage. Because my son needed a wife, not a competitor. That was a lie. Tamsin had quit because Jolene had made it clear, in 100 small ways, that having a wife who earned more than Carrie was unacceptable, was embarrassing, was emasculating, and Carrie had asked her to quit. For him, for them, for peace. Tamsin looked at Carrie now, willing him to say something, to correct his mother's lie, to defend her. He was studying his mashed potatoes like they required intense concentration. From where I'm sitting, Jolene continued, her voice rising now, performing for her audience. You don't understand much at all, Tamsin. You don't understand what it means to be part of this family. You don't understand what we expect from the women who marry into it. You don't understand tradition or loyalty or sacrifice. You don't understand why Carrie needed space from you, why he came home where he belongs. Mama, Carrie said, but his voice was so weak. Barely a whisper, a ghost of protest. No. Jolene held up her hand, silencing him. Someone needs to say this. Someone needs to be honest. We've all been tiptoeing around it for too long, being polite, trying to spare feelings. But it's the new year. Time for truth. She turned her full attention to Tamsin now. We invited you here tonight out of pity, Tamsin, because it's the holidays, because Carrie felt guilty about how things ended, because we're good Christian people who believe in charity. But don't misunderstand what this is. This isn't reconciliation. This isn't forgiveness. This isn't us welcoming you back. This is charity. This is pity. So I suggest you eat your dinner, be grateful we included you at all, and don't stay long. Don't overstay your welcome, because you're not really welcome here at all. The words hung in the air like gun smoke. Tamsin felt every single eye on her, felt them waiting, watching, wanting to see her break, wanting to see her cry, wanting to watch her crumble under the weight of their collective rejection. Then Darren laughed, loud, cruel, delighted. Come on, Mama, be nice. She already knows she's nothing. Look at her. No job, no kids, no family of her own anymore. Isn't her grandmother dead? What did she ever bring to this family except problems? He leaned forward, his eyes glittering. Dad felt sorry for her, that's the truth. We all did. Poor Tamsin, all alone in the world, clinging to our Carrie like a life raft. No wonder he needed space. No wonder he left. That's enough, Carrie said, but his voice had no strength behind it, no conviction. It was the voice of a man going through motions, saying words he didn't mean. Is it enough? Darren pressed, emboldened. Is it really? Because I think we've all been holding back, being too polite. She quit her fancy finance job because you asked her to, Carrie. Gave up everything to play housewife, to try to be good enough, and she couldn't even do that right. Couldn't even make you happy. No wonder you left her. Tamsin's hands were shaking violently. She pressed them flat against her thighs under the table where no one could see, her nails digging into her palms through the fabric of her dress. She turned to look at Carrie, her husband, the man who'd stood beside her at an altar 3 years ago and promised to love, honor, and protect her. The man who'd held her face in his hands on their wedding day and whispered, "You and me against the world. Always." Say something, anything. Please, God, say something. Carrie looked at her, finally looked at her, and she saw everything in his face, the guilt, the shame, the fear, the weakness, the cowardice. He opened his mouth. She waited. The whole table waited. Then Carrie looked down at his plate, said nothing, did nothing. The silence broke her more than any of their words ever could. Something inside Tamsin went very still, very quiet, like the moment before a storm, when all the birds stop singing and the whole world holds its breath. She stood, slowly, every movement deliberate, controlled, graceful. She walked past all of them, into the kitchen, picked up her grandmother's untouched sweet potato pie, walked back to the dining room, smiled, so wide her face hurt, so wide it felt like her face might crack apart. "Thank you all," she said, her voice steady as stone, "for this lovely evening. It's been very educational." Jolene's eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I finally understand exactly who you all are. Every single one of you. And more importantly, I understand who I am and who I'm not." Tamsin's smile never wavered. "Happy New Year." She walked to the front door. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The silence was absolute. As she reached for the doorknob, Carrie half stood, his chair scraping. "Tamsin, wait!" She turned, looked at him, really looked at him. "Sit down, Carrie. You've made your choice. You made it 8 months ago. You made it again tonight. I'm just finally accepting it. I didn't. You did. By saying nothing. By doing nothing. You chose them over me. Again." Her voice was still calm, still controlled. "And that's okay. I'm choosing me now, finally. After 3 years of choosing you, I'm choosing myself." She walked out, closed the door softly behind her. Not a slam, not anger, just finality. In her car, Tamsin sat in the darkness, her grandmother's pie balanced on her lap. She waited for the tears to come. They didn't. Instead, she felt something else, something cold and clear and powerful and almost like freedom. She touched the pearls at her throat. They were still warm. She pulled out her phone, found the number she'd been holding on to for months, waiting for this exact moment, knowing it would come. She typed, "It's time. Do it. Do everything." The response came immediately. "Are you absolutely certain? Once I start, there's no going back." Tamsin looked at the house behind her, at the windows full of light and laughter, at the life that had never really been hers. She typed back, "I've never been more certain of anything in my entire life. Execute it all." She started her car and drove away from that house, away from those people, away from the woman she'd been pretending to be for 3 years. She drove toward herself, toward freedom, toward the life her grandmother had always known she deserved. Chapter 3. The morning after. Tamsin woke to sunlight streaming through her bedroom window, warm on her face. For just a moment, still caught between sleep and waking, she forgot. Then it all came rushing back like cold water. The dinner. The humiliation. Jolene's voice dripping with pity. Darren's cruel laughter. Carrie's devastating silence. The look in his eyes when he finally met hers. Guilt and shame and cowardice all tangled together. The text she'd sent afterward. She reached for her phone. 7 missed calls from Carrie. 4 from Jolene. 3 voicemails she deleted without listening because she already knew what they'd say. Excuses, explanations, requests to talk, to work it out, to give them another chance. A text from Nia, sent at 2 in the morning. "Girl, call me when you wake up. I'm so proud of you I could cry." But first, before anything else, Tamsin did what she'd done every single morning since her grandmother died 3 years ago. She got up, padded to the kitchen in her bare feet, and made coffee the way Essie had taught her. Strong and sweet, with just enough cream to make it the color of her grandmother's skin. She poured it into Essie's favorite mug, the one with the chipped handle that Tamsin couldn't bear to throw away. Then she sat in the chair by the window and looked out at the city waking up below her. This apartment, the one Carrie had never wanted to sell because he kept saying they'd work things out eventually. The one she'd lived in alone for 8 months while he lived with his mother, both of them pretending they were just taking a break instead of admitting their marriage was already over. She'd made this place beautiful despite everything. The plants she tended with care, bringing green life into concrete and glass, the books on the shelves, her grandmother's favorites mixed with her own, the art on the walls, pieces she'd bought from local artists, her grandmother's quilt, hand-stitched, draped over the reading chair, the life she'd built while pretending to be small, pretending to want less, pretending she didn't have dreams of her own. Her phone rang. Nia. "Please tell me you went through with it," Nia said, without even saying hello. "Please tell me you didn't back out. Please tell me those people are about to learn what happens when you push Essie Barron's granddaughter too far." "I went through with it." "Oh, thank God." Nia's voice cracked with emotion. "I've been waiting for you to destroy them for 2 years, Tamsin. 2 years of watching them break you piece by piece. Finally, you're fighting back." "I'm not fighting," Tamsin said quietly. "I'm just leaving. Taking what's mine and leaving. Taking what's yours is fighting. Taking what they thought was theirs is war, and I am here for it." After they hung up, Tamsin opened her laptop. The folder she'd been building for the past 6 months sat there, innocent looking. Just a folder labeled Important Documents. Inside it was everything: bank statements, legal papers, emails, scanned documents, proof, evidence of who really owned what, evidence of who'd really been paying for what, evidence of lies told and truths buried and money moved in ways that looked legal on the surface but wouldn't survive scrutiny. She'd been building this case slowly, carefully, the way Essie had taught her to approach any problem, methodically, patiently, with attention to detail that would make investigators weep with admiration. Tamsin opened her photo app, scrolled back through 3 years of marriage documented in pictures, each photo a moment in time, each one showing the slow fade of joy from her own face. She stopped on one from their wedding day. Carrie's smile, so genuine it hurt to look at. Her own face radiant with hope. And there, dancing in the background, arms raised to heaven, joy radiating from her like light, Essie. The last photo of her grandmother, alive. 2 weeks after the wedding, Tamsin and Essie had sat together in Essie's garden. It was summer, the height of the season, and the roses Essie had planted decades ago were in full bloom. The air smelled like honeysuckle and earth and home. Essie had been dying then, though she wouldn't admit it. Cancer eating through her bones, stealing her strength day by day. But that afternoon, she'd been determined, urgent, like she knew her time was running out and she had things to say that couldn't wait. "Baby girl," Essie had said, her hand thin as paper on Tamsin's arm, "I need to tell you something while I still got breath in my body to say it." "Don't talk like that, grandmother. The doctors said, 'Hush now and listen to me. I'm dying. We both know it. Cancer don't care how much we pretend otherwise.'" Essie's eyes, still sharp despite the pain medication, fixed on Tamsin's face with an intensity that made her shiver. "I see what's happening in your marriage. I see it clear as day. I see how that boy's family treats you, and I see how he lets them." "He's trying, grandmother. He loves me. It's just his mother is difficult and he ain't trying hard enough. And baby girl, you making yourself smaller every single day. Thinking if you just shrink enough, just disappear enough, just give up enough of yourself, they'll finally accept you. They won't. Some people can't love what they don't understand, and they don't want to understand you." Tears had filled Tamsin's eyes then. "What am I supposed to do?" Essie had pulled her close, held her tight. "You remember who you are. You remember you're my granddaughter. You remember every woman in your bloodline who survived things that should have killed them. You remember that love without courage is just pretty words on wind." She'd held Tamsin's face between her hands. "And baby girl, listen to me now. This is important. If the time comes when you got to choose between being loved and being free, you choose free. Every single time. You hear me? I hear you. Promise me, on these pearls I'm giving you, on my grave, on everything that matters in this world and the next. Promise me you won't let them make you a ghost." "I promise, grandmother." "Say it with your whole heart, baby. Promise me that when they try to erase you, you'll save yourself instead." "I promise. With my whole heart. I'll save myself." Essie had kissed her forehead then, long and lingering. "That's my girl. That's my strong, beautiful, brilliant girl. Now, sitting alone in her apartment with cold coffee and warm memories, Tamsin touched the pearls at her throat. "I'm keeping my promise, grandmother," she whispered to the woman who couldn't hear her anymore. "I'm choosing free. I'm saving myself, just like you taught me." Her phone buzzed. An email from her lawyer, a woman named Patricia, who specialized in exactly this kind of situation. "Documents filed with the county this morning. All transfers are official. As of 8 a.m. Everything's in motion. There's no going back now. Are you ready?" Tamsin typed back with steady fingers. "I've been ready for months. Let them find out however they find out. I'm done warning people who never listened." She closed her laptop, stood, looked around the apartment one more time with clear eyes. She wasn't taking everything, just what mattered, just what was actually hers. Her grandmother's quilt, the photo albums, her clothes, the plants she'd nurtured, the coffee maker Essie had given her, the mug with the chipped handle. She left the wedding photos on the walls. Let Carrie have those memories when he inevitably came looking for her, needing something, wanting to talk, hoping to explain away the unexplainable. She left the furniture they'd bought together, the dishes they'd picked out, the pots and pans, the towels, the life they'd built that turned out to be constructed from sand and wishful thinking instead of stone and truth. She kept only what was truly hers, what was real, what her grandmother had given her, or what she'd bought with her own money, her own effort. By evening, her car was packed full, every inch of space utilized, her whole real life condensed into one vehicle. The apartment looked hollow now, empty, like someone had scooped out its heart and left only the shell behind. Tamsin stood in the doorway one final time, keys in hand. This had been her home for 3 years. The place where she'd loved and been loved, where she'd laughed and cried and slowly disappeared, trying to become someone else's version of acceptable. She was done disappearing. She locked the door, slid the key under the mat, along with a note written on the back of an envelope. "You can have everything here. I only took what was actually mine. The apartment is paid through the end of the month. After that, it's your problem. Don't contact me. My lawyer will be in touch. T." Then she got in her car, turned on the engine, and drove away from the life that had almost destroyed her. She didn't know exactly where she was going yet, but she knew who she was going as. Herself. Finally, completely, unapologetically, herself. Chapter 4. What They Built on Lies. 1 week later, Jolene's phone rang at 7 in the morning. She fumbled for it, groggy and irritated, her reading glasses on the nightstand where she couldn't quite reach them. "Hello? Mrs. Lemon, this is David Patterson from First National Bank. I'm calling about the property at 428 Mountain Ridge Road, the family cabin. We have a record here that it was sold yesterday afternoon, and we wanted to confirm you received the wire transfer for the proceeds." Jolene sat up so fast her head spun. "What? What are you talking about? I didn't sell anything. There must be some mistake." "Ma'am, according to our records, the sale was finalized by the trustee of the Lemon Family Trust. Everything was properly executed. Legal documents all in order. The proceeds were transferred to the account ending in 4721. There is no trust. That cabin is in my name. It's been in my name for 40 years, since my husband's father died and left it to us." A pause on the other end, papers rustling. "Mum, I'm looking at the deed right now, dated 3 years ago. The property was transferred into the Lemon Family Trust at that time. The sole trustee is listed as Tamsin Barron." Jolene's blood turned to ice in her veins. "That's impossible. My husband never said anything about a trust. He would have told me. He wouldn't have given her control of anything." "Ma'am, I can only tell you what the legal documents say. If you believe there's been an error, you'll need to contact your attorney. But from our perspective, everything was legitimate. The trustee had full authority to sell. The sale is final." Jolene hung up without saying goodbye. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely dial Carrie's number. He answered on the first ring, his voice thick with sleep. "Mama, what's wrong? What time is it?" "The cabin. Someone sold it. They're saying Tamsin. They're saying she had the right to sell it. They're saying your father put it in a trust with her name on it." Silence on the other end. "Carrie, did you hear me?" "That's impossible. The cabin's yours. Dad wouldn't do that. He wouldn't give her control." "That's what I said. But the bank says it's done, says the money's gone, says it was all legal. I'll be there in 20 minutes. 30 minutes later, Carrie and Darren were both at Jolene's kitchen table. They'd called the bank, called the county recorder's office, called the lawyer who'd handled their father's estate. Everyone they could think of. The answer was always the same. The cabin belonged to the Lemon Family Trust. Tamsin was the trustee. She'd sold it legally. The money was transferred and gone. How is this even possible? Darren paced the kitchen like a caged animal, his face red with fury. Dad wouldn't do this. He wouldn't betray his own family. Wouldn't give that woman control of our property. Jolene sat at the table, her face pale as paper. He did, because he knew. He knew what we'd do to her, what we were already doing to her, and he tried to protect her from us. Protect her? Darren's voice rose. From what? We're his family. We're his blood. Are we? Carrie spoke quietly, his voice hollow. He was reading something on his phone, an email the estate lawyer had finally sent. Listen to this. When your father was in his final days, he made several significant changes to his estate planning. He'd witnessed how your family treated Miss Barron during his illness and wanted to ensure she was protected. He specifically requested that I keep these arrangements confidential until such time as they became relevant or necessary. Your father was very clear about his intentions. He said, and I quote, "Tell them when they've driven her away. Let them understand what they've lost." The doorbell rang, sharp and sudden in the quiet. Jolene answered it on shaking legs. A courier stood there with a large envelope and a tablet for her signature. "Delivery for Jolene Lemon. Sign here, please." She signed without really seeing, took the envelope, closed the door. Back in the kitchen, she opened it with trembling fingers while her sons watched. Inside was a letter from a law firm, Henderson and Associates, and attached to it a thick stack of documents bound with a black clip. Jolene read the cover letter aloud, her voice getting smaller with each word. "Dear Mrs. Lemon, we represent Tamsin Barron. Please be advised that our client is exercising her rights as trustee of the Lemon Family Trust. Enclosed you will find documentation of all assets currently under trust control, as well as notice of pending legal action regarding unpaid compensation for services rendered to Lemon Hardware and Supply." Her voice trailed off as she flipped through the attached documents, bank statements, business accounts, legal filings, pages and pages of evidence. But it was the last item in the envelope that made her hands go completely still. A letter, handwritten. In ink she recognized, her dead husband's distinctive slant. Jolene's eyes filled with tears before she even started reading. "What is it?" Darren demanded. "What does it say?" She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, just handed it to Carrie with shaking hands. Carrie read it aloud, his voice breaking on nearly every line. "My dear family, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And if you're reading this through lawyers and legal documents, it means you failed her. You failed Tamsin, the woman my son loves, the woman who deserves so much better than any of you. I'm not a fool, never have been. I watched you, Jolene, watched you tear that girl down with smiles and sweet words and poison disguised as motherly concern. Watched you cut her with kindness, kill her with courtesy. Watched you drive her away piece by piece while pretending to welcome her. I watched you, Darren, mock her at every turn, make jokes about her hair, her background, her education, turned family dinners into performances where she was always the punchline. And I watched you, son. Watched you stay silent when you should have roared. Watched you choose peace over principle. Watched you fail the most important test a man can face, standing up for the woman he loves when his family tries to destroy her. I was weak once too. Jolene's parents hated me, thought I wasn't good enough for their daughter. Wrong background, wrong education, wrong religion, wrong everything. They told her if she married me they'd disown her, cut her off completely. But I fought for her. I stood up to them. I proved I was worthy, and eventually I won. You didn't fight for Tamsin. You betrayed her with your silence. So I protected her the only way I could. Everything you think is yours. The cabin where we spent every holiday, the business that bears our name, the accounts you've been using freely. It's all hers now, or under her control. Same difference. Not to punish you, though God knows you deserve punishment, but to ensure that if you drove her away with your cruelty, at least she wouldn't leave with nothing. At least she'd have something to start over with. Did you know Tamsin's been keeping the business afloat for 2 years? Her money, her investments, her financial knowledge working quietly in the background while you all took credit. While Jolene complained about her working. While you, Darren, made jokes about her being too educated for our simple family. While you, Carrie, asked her to quit her job because my wife convinced you a man's wife shouldn't earn more than him. She gave up her career for you, for peace, and you gave her nothing in return but contempt. The cabin? I put it in trust because I knew Jolene would use it as a weapon, would make sure Tamsin felt unwelcome there, would turn my favorite place in the world into another battlefield. Son, I gave you the greatest gift a father could give, a woman who saw your worth when no one else did, a woman who loved you despite us, despite your mother's cruelty and your brother's mockery and your own spineless inability to stand up for what's right. And you threw her away to keep the peace with people who don't deserve peace. If you're reading this, it means she's gone. And you have only yourselves to blame. I hope it was worth it. I hope keeping your mother happy was worth losing the only good thing that ever happened to you. I hope staying comfortable in your cowardice was worth destroying your marriage. Don't come crying to me. I'm dead, and I'm disappointed in all of you. Ashamed even. Fix this if you can, though I suspect you can't. You've probably destroyed something too beautiful to repair. But for God's sake, at least try. At least become men worthy of asking her forgiveness, even if she never gives it. Be better than you were. Be better than I taught you to be. Your father, Thomas Lemon P.S. Jolene, I loved you for 50 years, but I watched you become your parents, the people who tried to destroy us. I watched you do to her what they did to me, and I couldn't stop you, so I did this instead. I'm sorry, but not sorry enough to change it. The kitchen was completely silent. Carrie's hand shook so badly the letter fluttered like a wounded bird. He read it again and again, like he couldn't quite believe the words were real. Darren stood frozen, his face drained of color. Our own father, he whispered. Our own father hated us. No. Jolene's voice was broken glass. He didn't hate us. He was ashamed of us. That's so much worse. Carrie stood abruptly. The letter fell from his hands, drifted to the floor. He walked out of the house without a word, without looking back. Got in his truck, drove. He didn't know where he was going until he got there. Tamsin's apartment building. But when he arrived, there was a young couple unloading a U-Haul truck, moving furniture in. The woman saw him standing on the sidewalk, looking lost, and walked over. Can I help you with something? I'm looking for Tamsin. Tamsin Barron. She lives here, in 212. The woman's face softened with sympathy. Oh, I'm sorry. We just bought this place. The previous owner moved out last week. Didn't leave a forwarding address. The realtor said she was relocating for work or something. Carrie stood there on the sidewalk, staring at the door that used to lead to his life. To their life. She was gone. Really, truly gone. and he had no idea how to find her, no idea how to even begin to fix what he'd broken. His phone rang. His mother. He didn't answer. She called again and again. He turned off his phone, sat in his truck outside the apartment that wasn't Tamsin's anymore, and finally let himself cry. Really cry. The kind of crying that comes from the bottom of your soul, that tears sound from your throat, that breaks something fundamental inside you. He cried for his father's disappointment. He cried for his own cowardice. He cried for Tamsin, alone somewhere, starting over because he'd failed her. He cried until he had nothing left. Then he drove to the only place he could think of. The place where Tamsin had brought him once, when grief was still fresh and love was still possible. Her grandmother's house. Chapter 5. Essie's garden. Tamsin stood in the garden where her grandmother used to grow miracles. The new family who'd bought Essie's house had been kind beyond measure. They'd kept the garden exactly as Essie had left it, had even added to it, planting new roses alongside the old ones. They'd invited Tamsin to visit whenever she needed, understanding instinctively that some places hold pieces of our souls that we can never fully carry away. She sat on the wooden bench Essie had loved, the one positioned perfectly to catch the morning sun, surrounded by roses in every color, red for passion, white for remembrance, pink for grace, yellow for friendship. Her grandmother had assigned meaning to everything, had taught Tamsin that beauty always has purpose. For the first time since New Year's dinner, since walking out of that house with her dignity and her grandmother's pie, Tamsin let herself really cry. Not the quiet, dignified tears she'd shed in her car, not the angry tears she'd cried while packing, but the deep, bone-shaking sobs that come from the very center of your being. She cried for the woman she'd tried to become, the smaller, quieter, more acceptable version of herself that still wasn't enough. She cried for the years she'd spent shrinking, disappearing, giving up pieces of herself like offerings to gods who would never be satisfied. She cried for her marriage, for the love that should have been enough but wasn't, for the man who'd loved her but not bravely. And she cried because even now, even after everything, part of her still loved him, still remembered the man he'd been before his family taught him to be small. "I'm sorry, grandmother," she whispered to the roses, to the wind, to the memory of the woman who'd raised her to be strong. "I tried so hard. I really did. I tried to make it work, tried to be what they needed, tried to love him enough for both of us." The wind picked up, rustling through the roses, and Tamsin could almost hear Essie's voice. "Baby girl, you got nothing to be sorry for. You loved with your whole heart. Ain't no shame in that." She remembered the first time she'd brought Carrie here to meet Essie. It was early in their relationship, just 2 months of dating, when everything still felt new and shiny and possible, when love seemed simple instead of complicated, when she still believed that love could conquer anything. Carrie had been so nervous that day, kept adjusting his shirt, running his hands through his hair. "What if she doesn't like me? What if she thinks I'm not good enough for you?" Tamsin had laughed, taken his hand. "She'll love you, I promise. My grandmother loves everyone." But that wasn't quite true. Essie didn't love everyone. She was kind to everyone, patient with everyone, but love, real love, was something she reserved for people who earned it. They'd sat in this very garden, drinking sweet tea from Essie's good glasses, while her grandmother asked Carrie questions, not aggressive questions, not interrogation, just the careful, precise questions of a woman who'd lived long enough to spot lies from 100 yards away. "Tell me about your people," Essie had said, her eyes sharp on Carrie's face. "My family. Well, there's my mother Jolene, my brother Darren. My father passed when I was young." He stopped, corrected himself. "Actually, no, that's not true. Dad's still alive. I don't know why I said that. He's been sick, though. Heart problems." Essie had noticed the lie. Tamsin saw it in her face. but she'd let it pass. And they gonna welcome my grandbaby? Treat her right? Carrie had hesitated, just for a moment, just long enough for Essie to catch it. My mother can be traditional, set in her ways, but she'll come around once she gets to know Tamsin. Anyone who knows Tamsin loves her. And if she don't come around, then I'll handle it. Essie had smiled then, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a woman who'd heard promises like that before and watched them crumble into dust. After Carrie left that day, Essie had pulled Tamsin onto this bench, held her hand. Baby girl, I like him. I do. He's sweet. He's gentle. He looks at you like you hung the moon. But what? But he's weak where it matters. You saw how he hesitated when I asked about his family. He already knows they won't accept you, and he's already scared of that fight. Essie had touched Tamsin's face. I need you to listen to me now. Love don't protect you from pain. Sometimes love is the pain, and that boy loves you. But he ain't strong enough to fight for you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. You don't know that, grandmother. I'm 83 years old. I know men. I know weakness when I see it. Essie had pulled her close. But you're gonna love him anyway. I can see that too. So I'm just gonna tell you this. Don't set yourself on fire to keep him warm. Don't shrink yourself to fit in his family's small spaces. And when the time comes, and it will come, baby girl, when you got to choose between his love and your freedom, you choose you. Every single time. Tamsin had promised, but she hadn't really understood. Not then. She understood now. Now, sitting in Essie's garden with tears drying on her face, Tamsin pulled out her phone, scrolled through photos until she found the ones she was looking for. The wedding. God, they'd looked so happy. Carrie's smile so genuine it made her heart hurt even now. Her own face glowing with hope and joy and love. And there, dancing with arms raised to heaven, her church dress swirling around her legs, was Essie, the last photo ever taken of her grandmother alive and well. 2 weeks after that wedding, the cancer diagnosis came. Stage 4, too far gone for treatment to do much good. The doctors gave Essie 6 months. She lasted 4. Tamsin scrolled to another photo. This one taken 3 months after the wedding, her and Essie in this very garden. Essie was thinner by then, her skin loose on her bones, her eyes still bright, but her body failing. Take a picture with me, baby girl, Essie had said that day. I want you to remember this. Remember what? This moment, this garden, this conversation, because I'm gonna tell you something important, and you're gonna need to remember it later. They'd taken the photo. Then Essie had spoken, and Tamsin had listened. Your marriage is in trouble, baby. What? No. We're fine. We're happy. You're shrinking. I see it every time you visit. There's less of you. You're making yourself smaller, quieter, trying to fit into spaces that weren't built for you. Essie's grip on her hand had been surprisingly strong. His family is eating you alive, and he's letting them. He ain't standing up for you. He ain't protecting you. He making you fight alone. He's trying, grandmother. It's just his mother is difficult. She needs time to adjust. She ain't gonna adjust. She gonna push until you break or leave. That's what people like her do. They can't destroy what's strong, so they try to make it weak. And baby girl, you're letting them. Tamsin had cried then, finally admitting what she'd been hiding. I don't know how to fight them without losing him. Every time I stand up for myself, he gets quiet, withdrawn, like I'm causing problems by refusing to accept their treatment. So I keep thinking if I just give it more time, if I just try harder, if I just become what they need me to be. You'll lose yourself, Essie finished. And baby, losing yourself is worse than losing love, so much worse. What do I do? You remember who you are. You remember you're my granddaughter. You remember every woman in your bloodline who survived worse than mean in-laws and weak husbands. You remember that love without courage is just pretty words. Essie had pulled her close then, held her tight. And when the time comes, when you can't shrink no more without disappearing completely, you save yourself. You hear me? You save yourself. I'm scared, grandmother. I know, baby, but you're Essie Barron's granddaughter. We don't stay where we're not wanted. We don't beg for love. We don't make ourselves small for people who can't see our worth. She touched the pearls at Tamsin's neck. These pearls survived everything: slavery, war, heartbreak, loss. They're still here, still beautiful, still valuable. You're like these pearls, baby girl. Whatever you're going through, you're gonna survive it. Gonna come out the other side stronger and shinier than ever. Promise? I promise. And you promise me something too. Promise me that when push comes to shove, you choose you. I promise. On these pearls. On my grave, on everything that matters. On everything that matters, grandmother. I promise. Now, 3 years later, sitting in the garden where that promise was made, Tamsin touched the pearls at her throat. They were warm against her skin, like they carried Essie's life force inside them. I kept my promise, she whispered. I chose me. Finally, after all this time, I chose myself. Her phone buzzed. A text from her lawyer. The family knows. Jolene called my office 8 times this morning. Carrie left 4 voicemails. Darren threatened legal action. What do you want me to tell them? Tamsin thought about it. Thought about Carrie sitting in his mother's kitchen, reading his father's letter, finally understanding the depth of what he'd lost. Thought about Jolene realizing her cruelty had cost her everything. Thought about them scrambling, panicking, trying to undo what couldn't be undone. She typed back, tell them nothing. Let them wonder. Let them search. Let them feel what I felt for 3 years. Powerless and voiceless and invisible. Tell them Tamsin Barron sends her regards. Then she did something she should have done months ago. She blocked Carrie's number, blocked Jolene's, blocked Darren's. Blocked every single member of that family who'd ever made her feel like she wasn't enough. She stood from the bench, brushed the dirt from her dress, touched the roses one final time. Thank you, grandmother, she said to the wind, to the flowers, to the memory that would never leave her. For raising me strong, for teaching me my worth, for these pearls, for this garden, for showing me it's okay to save myself, for loving me enough to let me go. The wind picked up, warm against her face, carrying the scent of roses. Tamsin smiled, turned, and walked toward the future she was building from the ashes of what had been, toward the woman she was becoming, toward freedom. Chapter 6. The Man in the Truck. Carrie sat in his truck outside Essie's old house for the 3rd day in a row. He didn't know why he kept coming here, couldn't explain it even to himself. Tamsin wasn't here. The house belonged to someone else now, a young family with 2 kids and a golden retriever he could see playing in the yard sometimes. But this was the last place he'd seen Tamsin truly happy, before his family broke her, before he let them, before he chose silence over courage and lost everything that mattered. He thought about the day she'd brought him here, 1 month after Essie died. The house had been empty then, not yet sold, still full of furniture and photos, and the ghost of the woman who'd raised Tamsin to be strong. They'd walked through the rooms together, Tamsin touching walls, whispering goodbyes to memories only she could see. Then she'd led him out to the garden, sat on that wooden bench surrounded by roses, and cried in his arms. Really cried. The kind of crying that comes from losing someone who was your whole world. My grandmother raised me in this house, she'd said through tears. After my mama died when I was 8, this was home. These walls heard me laugh and cry and dream. Essie planted those roses the year I was born. She used to say they'd outlive both of us, said flowers remember love even when people forget. Carrie had held her, kissed her forehead, promised her, we'll make new memories, in our place, together. You won't be alone. But she had been alone, He'd made sure of that. By moving back to his mother's house 8 months ago, leaving Tamsin in their apartment, living by herself in a space that never felt like home because he'd abandoned her. His phone rang. His mother. Again. He'd stopped answering 3 days ago, hadn't spoken to her since reading his father's letter, since understanding the full scope of what they'd done to Tamsin, what he'd allowed them to do. She called again, and again, the phone vibrating in his cup holder like an angry insect. Finally, he picked up. What? Where are you? We need to talk about this situation, about Tamsin, about what we're going to do to fix this. The lawyer says if you sign the divorce papers, maybe she'll negotiate. Maybe we can keep the store at least. Maybe... I don't care about the store. His voice came out flat. Dead. What? Carrie, that's your legacy. Your father's legacy. It's been in our family for... It's not my legacy. Dad's letter made that clear. His legacy is shame. His legacy is a son who was too weak to protect his own wife. That's what Dad left me, not a store. A lesson in cowardice. Silence on the other end. We need to talk about this, Jolene finally said, her voice smaller now, uncertain. No, Mama, we don't. We needed to talk about it 3 years ago. We needed to talk about it the first time you made a comment about Tamsin's hair, the first time Darren mocked her education, the first time you made her feel like she wasn't good enough. But we didn't talk then. So we're not talking now. Carrie, do you know what the worst part is? His voice cracked. I loved her. God, Mama, I loved her so much I could barely breathe sometimes. And I still let you destroy her. I watched you cut her down piece by piece, day after day, and I told myself it would get better, that you'd come around, that if I just gave it time, you'd see what I saw. But you never wanted to see. You wanted her gone, and you used my weakness to drive her away. That's not fair. I was trying to protect you. From what? From being happy. From having a wife who was smarter than me, more successful than me, better than me in every possible way. Is that what you were protecting me from? My own inadequacy? Jolene was crying now. He could hear it. I was trying to protect our family, our way of life. She was different, Carrie. She didn't fit. She didn't understand. She understood perfectly. That's why she left. That's why Dad gave her everything. Because he understood too. He understood that you're exactly like your parents. The people who tried to destroy him. The people who made you choose between them and love. And you chose love back then. Had the courage Dad needed you to have. But when it was my turn, you became them. You made me choose, and I chose wrong. He hung up before she could respond. That night, unable to sleep, unable to think about anything except Tamsin and his failure, Carrie went back to their apartment. The new owners hadn't moved in yet. He still had a key. He walked through rooms that used to hold their life together, looked at bare walls where their photos used to hang, empty spaces where furniture used to be, the ghost of a life that should have lasted forever. In the bedroom closet, he found a box, small, unlabeled, hidden in the back corner behind where her clothes used to hang. He opened it with shaking hands. Letters, dozens of them, all addressed to him in Tamsin's handwriting. None of them sent. He sat on the floor, his back against the closet wall, and started reading by the light of his phone. Dear Carrie, today your mother said I should try harder to fit in with the family. I wanted to ask what more I could possibly do. I've already quit my job, changed how I dress, straightened my hair even though you used to say you loved it natural, started going to a church I don't belong to, smiled through comments that made me want to scream. What else is there? What else can I give up until there's nothing left of me at all? Dear Carrie, I miss you. Not the man who lives in your mother's house and won't look at me. Not the stranger who used to be my husband. I miss the real you, the man I married, the one who used to hold my hand under the table during family dinners, the one who'd defend me when someone said something cruel. Where did he go? When did I lose him? Or was he never really there at all? Dear Carrie, do you remember our wedding day? You held my face in your hands and said, "You and me against the world, always." I believed you. I stood at that altar in front of everyone we knew, and I believed every word. Was it a lie, or did you mean it then and forget somewhere along the way? Did you forget that marriage means standing together? Did you forget that love requires courage? Dear Carrie, I'm afraid. Afraid I'm disappearing. Not because they're erasing me, though they are, but because I'm letting them. Every time I make myself smaller to keep the peace, I lose another piece of who I was. And you don't even notice. Or worse, you notice and you're relieved because quiet Tamsin is easier than real Tamsin. Quiet Tamsin doesn't make your mother uncomfortable. Quiet Tamsin doesn't force you to choose. Dear Carrie, I went to my grandmother's grave today, sat there for hours, told her I was trying so hard to make this work, trying to be a good wife, trying to earn your family's acceptance. And you know what I heard? Her voice in my head saying, "Baby girl, you can't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm." I'm burning, Carrie. I've been burning for 3 years, and you're watching me burn and doing nothing to put out the flames. You're just turning away so you don't have to see. Dear Carrie, your father pulled me aside at Thanksgiving. It was a month before he died, though none of us knew it then. He said, "Tamsin, I see what they're doing to you. I see it, and I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of my wife. I'm ashamed of my son. I'm ashamed that I raised him to value peace over principle." He said he was going to fix it, change things, make sure I was protected. I didn't understand what he meant. I think I do now. I think he knew you'd fail me, knew I'd have to save myself. The last letter was dated 2 days before New Year's. Dear Carrie, this is my last letter. My last attempt to put words to pain that's become too big for language. I'm leaving. Not because I stopped loving you. I can't stop loving you. God knows I've tried. But I can't afford to love you more than I love myself anymore. My grandmother didn't raise me to be a ghost. She raised me to be oak, not willow, strong, unbending. And I've been bending so long I forgot how to stand straight. So I'm leaving, to find myself again, to remember who I was before I tried to become who your family wanted. And if you ever find the courage, real courage, not just words, to be the man I thought you were, maybe you'll come looking for me. But I'm not holding my breath. I'm not waiting by the phone. I'm not putting my life on hold hoping you'll finally grow a spine. I'm choosing me. Finally, after all this time, I'm choosing me. I hope someday you understand. I hope someday you're proud of me for it. But even if you're not, I'm doing it anyway. Because your grandmother was right. Love without courage is just pretty words. And I'm tired of pretty words. I need action. I need protection. I need a partner who fights for me instead of expecting me to fight alone. Since you can't be that person, I'll be my own partner. I'll fight for myself, and I'll survive this, just like your father knew I would, just like my grandmother taught me to. I'm sorry we couldn't make it work. I'm sorry love wasn't enough, but I'm not sorry for saving myself, not anymore. Goodbye, Carrie. I hope you find your courage someday. I hope you become the man your father wanted you to be, but you'll have to do it without me. I'm done disappearing. Love, T. Carrie sat in that dark closet for hours, reading and rereading the letters. Evidence of her pain, proof of his failure, documentation of how thoroughly he'd destroyed the best thing that ever happened to him. She'd been screaming for help. Silently, desperately, in letters she wrote, but never sent because she knew he wouldn't hear her even if she did. And he'd been too deaf, too blind, too cowardly to notice. When dawn came, pale light filtering through the bedroom window, Carrie gathered the letters carefully. put them back in the box, held that box against his chest like it contained his still beating heart. He couldn't undo what he'd done, couldn't erase 3 years of failure, couldn't earn her back, but he could become the man she'd needed him to be, even if she never saw it, even if it was too late. He could do it for her, for himself, for his father's disappointed ghost, for the man he should have been all along. He left the apartment carrying that box of letters, his evidence, his reminder, his penance. He would never forget again. Chapter 7. The Woman Who Rose. 3 months after New Year's, Tamsin walked into the downtown conference center wearing a red dress that cost more than she used to spend on clothes in a year. Her hair was natural, glorious, unapologetic. Her grandmother's pearls glowed against her brown skin, like they were happy to finally be worn with pride instead of hidden under scarves and careful styling. She'd been invited to keynote a conference. Financial freedom for women leaving difficult situations. The organizer had found her through her new consulting business, Barron and Associates, named for Essie, built on the foundation of everything her grandmother had taught her about survival and strength. Tamsin advised women now, women leaving bad marriages, women escaping abuse, women who needed to protect themselves financially before they could protect themselves physically. She taught them how to build safety nets, how to hide money legally, how to document everything, how to leave when love became dangerous. The ballroom was packed, 300 women of every age, every background, every race, women who'd been where she'd been, women who understood. Tamsin took the stage. The lights were bright. The crowd was silent, waiting. She looked out at all those faces and felt her grandmother's presence so strongly it nearly took her breath away. "My name is Tamsin Barron," she began, her voice steady and clear. 3 months ago I walked out of a family dinner where I'd been invited specifically to be humiliated, where people I'd spent 3 years trying to please told me to my face that I was nothing, that they'd only invited me out of pity, that I should be grateful for their charity and leave before I overstayed my welcome. The room was absolutely silent. You could hear breathing. I sat in my car afterward with my grandmother's sweet potato pie on my lap. The pie nobody touched, the offering nobody wanted, and I had a choice. I could go back. I could apologize for existing. I could try harder to disappear, or I could save myself. She paused, touched the pearls at her throat. My grandmother used to say, "Baby girl, you can't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm." For 3 years, I'd been burning myself alive. I quit my career in finance because my husband's family said it made him look bad. I straightened my hair because they said natural hair was unprofessional. I went to their church, smiled at their comments, made myself smaller and smaller, thinking that eventually they'd love me, that eventually I'd shrink enough to fit in their small spaces. Murmurs of recognition rippled through the crowd. I was wrong, because here's what I learned. Some people can't love what they don't understand. And they don't want to understand you. They want you to disappear. And if you stay, if you keep shrinking, eventually you will disappear. You'll look in the mirror one day and not recognize the person looking back. You'll wonder where you went, how you vanished in your own life. Several women were crying now, nodding, understanding. So I left, and I didn't just walk away. I took back what was mine. Not revenge, justice. Because my husband's father, God rest his soul, he saw what they were doing to me. And before he died, he protected me. He made sure I had power. He made sure that when they finally pushed me too far, I had options. The crowd erupted in applause. I'm not here to tell you leaving is easy. It's not. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. I loved my husband. Still do, if I'm being honest. Love doesn't just stop because someone fails you. But I learned something crucial. You can love someone and still choose yourself. You can care deeply and still walk away. Because real love, the kind that lasts, the kind that's worth having, asks you to be whole, not half. And if someone needs you to be half to love you, that's not love, that's control. More applause, women standing now. So I'm here to tell you three things. First, document everything, every conversation, every incident, every dollar. Build your case before you need it. Second, find your SE. My grandmother gave me these pearls. She touched them again. She told me they survived everything, slavery, war, heartbreak. She said I was like these pearls. I'd survive too. Find someone who believes in your survival, who reminds you who you are when you forget. And third, choose yourself. When the moment comes, and it will come, when you have to choose between being loved and being free, choose free every single time. Because freedom is the foundation. Love built on top of it will be strong, but love without freedom is just a beautiful prison. The room exploded. Women standing, clapping, crying, shouting. Tamsin stood there, letting their support wash over her, feeling more powerful than she'd felt in 3 years. After her speech, women lined up to talk to her, to shake her hand, to share their stories, to ask how she did it, how she found the strength. She talked with each one, gave her card to the ones who needed help, hugged the ones who were crying, reminded them all, "You're stronger than you think. Your survival proves it." She was talking with a woman whose eyes were swollen from crying when she felt it, that prickle at the back of her neck, the awareness of being watched. She turned slowly and saw him, Carrie, standing at the very back of the ballroom, half hidden by a pillar, looking like he hadn't slept in weeks, thinner, older, his eyes hollow and haunted, her heart, traitor that it was, still stuttered, still ached, still remembered loving him. Nia appeared at her elbow, following her gaze. "Want me to call security? Get him removed?" Tamsin watched him. He didn't approach, didn't wave, didn't try to catch her attention or force conversation. Just stood there, watching her with an expression that looked like grief and pride and regret all mixed together. Like he was seeing something he'd lost and could never get back. Like he was seeing who she'd become without him and understanding, finally, what he'd thrown away. "No," Tamsin said quietly. "Let him watch. Let him see what I am when I'm not shrinking. Let him understand what he could have had if he'd been brave enough to deserve it." She turned back to the women waiting to speak with her. Didn't look at Carrie again for the rest of the event, but she knew he stayed, knew he heard every word she said, knew he was witnessing her transformation. When the event finally ended, when the last woman had thanked her and left, Tamsin gathered her things, Nia beside her, protective and fierce. Carrie was gone from his spot by the pillar, but on the chair where he'd been sitting, there was an envelope. Against every ounce of her better judgment, Tamsin picked it up, opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a single letter, handwritten in ink she recognized. "Tamsin, I won't approach you. I won't call. I won't force you to deal with me, or my presence, or my guilt. I just wanted you to know I heard you today, really heard you. Every word, every truth. And you were magnificent. You were always magnificent. I'm sorry I couldn't see it while I had you. I'm sorry I let them dim your light. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to fight for you when fighting was all you needed from me. I'm working on becoming the man you deserved. Not to win you back. I know that ship has sailed, probably sunk, definitely gone. But because I can't live with who I was anymore. I can't look at myself without seeing my father's disappointment, your grandmother's quiet judgment, your pain that I caused. I'm trying not to be a coward anymore. It's harder than it should be, but I'm trying. Your grandmother was right about me. My father was right about me. You were right about me. I was weak, am weak, but I'm working on it. I hope you're happy. I hope you're free. I hope you know how extraordinary you are. I always knew. I was just too afraid to say it out loud, too afraid of what it meant about me, that I'd married someone so far above my level that I could never hope to deserve her. That fear made me weak, made me fail you. I'm sorry. I'll always be sorry. But I'm trying to be better. Not for you, for me, for the man I should have been all along. Thank you for today, for your words, for your strength, for showing me what courage looks like when it's worn by someone who actually has it. Carrie. Tamsin read it twice, then folded it carefully and put it in her purse. She didn't cry, didn't call him, didn't respond in any way, but she kept it. Maybe because part of her wanted proof that he finally understood. Or maybe because some small, stubborn part of her heart still remembered loving him and wanted to believe people could change. She walked out of that ballroom with her head high, her grandmother's pearls glowing against her skin, her future bright and open and hers. And if Carrie had witnessed it, if he'd finally seen what he'd lost, that was his burden to carry, not hers. Not anymore. Chapter 8. 50 days. Carrie didn't try to contact Tamsin after that day at the conference. Her lawyer had made it clear, no contact. He would respect that. He would respect her. But every single day, he wrote a letter. He didn't send them, couldn't send them, just wrote them. By hand, the old-fashioned way, the way his father used to write. Each letter dated, each one completely honest in a way he'd never been honest while they were married. Day 1. I saw you today, saw who you've become without me, and I realized something that makes me ashamed. I never really saw you when I had you. I saw who I needed you to be, who my mother needed you to be, who would fit in our small world, but not the real you, not the brilliant, powerful, extraordinary woman you always were. I'm sorry it took losing you to finally open my eyes. Day 7. I went to therapy today, first time in my life. The therapist asked what I was most afraid of. I said losing you. She pointed out that I already lost you, so what was I really afraid of? I didn't have an answer then. I do now. I'm afraid I'm exactly like my mother, afraid I'll destroy everyone I love by being too weak to stand up to the people who don't deserve my loyalty. Afraid weakness is genetic, and I'm doomed to be a coward forever. Day 14. I told my mother today that I'm done, that I won't be coming to family dinners anymore, won't be part of her life until she takes responsibility for what she did to you. She cried, said I was breaking her heart. I said you broke Tamsin's heart, and I helped you do it. My heart deserves to be broken. Yours does too. She asked if I'd ever forgive her. I said I don't know, but I know you don't have to, and I'll never ask you to. Day 21. I quit the family business today, walked out, told Darren I was done being part of something built on cruelty and maintained by my silence. He called me a traitor, said I was destroying Dad's legacy. I told him Dad's legacy wasn't a store. It was that letter, the one where he called us all cowards. That's the legacy I'm living with, the truth of who we are, who I was. Day 28. I've been volunteering at your grandmother's church. Hope that's okay. Hope you don't mind. The women there remember you. Remember Ms. Essie too. They tell me stories. How Essie used to pray out loud during services, her voice carrying above everyone else's. Lord, bless my grandbaby. Give her strength to leave what don't serve her. Give her courage to know her worth. I wish I'd heard those prayers while we were married. Maybe I would have understood what I was destroying. Day 35. I found your grandmother's grave today, drove to the cemetery, sat there for hours, talked to her like she could hear me, apologized, cried like a child. I'm a grown man crying at a grave, telling a woman who's been dead 3 years that I failed her granddaughter, that I'm sorry, that I don't know how to fix it. The wind picked up while I sat there. I imagined it was her response. Sorry ain't enough, boy. What you gonna do about it? Day 42. I found Dad's journals in the attic at Mama's house. He kept them for years. Most of it's boring, store stuff, bills, daily life. But there are entries about you, about us. One from a month before he died. Watched Jolene tear into Tamsin today over Christmas decorations. Said they were too flashy, too much. Tamsin apologized and took them down. Carrie said nothing. Watched his wife get humiliated and said nothing. He's doing to her what I let happen early in my marriage, choosing his mother over his wife. But I finally grew a spine. Will he? I'm not optimistic. He knew. He watched me fail. And he was disappointed until the day he died. Day 49. I understand now why you wrote those letters you never sent. Because sometimes you need to speak the truth even if no one will hear it. You need to put words to pain, make it real, acknowledge it happened. I'm writing these for you, but I'm also writing them for me. So I never forget. So I can't pretend it wasn't as bad as it was. So I have to face what I did every single day. Day 50. This is my 50th letter. 50 days of trying to understand how I could love you so much and still fail you so completely. I don't have answers, just this truth. I can't earn you back. Can't undo 3 years of failure. Can't erase the pain I caused. But I can earn the right to be the man you deserved all along, whether you ever see it or not, whether it matters to you or not, whether you ever speak to me again or not. I have to do it. For myself, for you, for my father's ghost, for the man I should have been from the beginning. I'm sorry I made you wait so long for courage I should have had day one. I'm sorry I wasted the gift you were. I'm sorry for everything. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life being better. Not for you to come back. You're not coming back. I know that. I accept that. Just to be better. Because I can't live with who I was anymore. Because when I look in the mirror now, I see my father's disappointment and my grandmother's prophecy and your pain, and I can't stand it. So I'm changing. Finally. Too late, but still, I'm changing. The morning after writing the 50th letter, Carrie's doorbell rang. He opened it to find his mother standing there. She looked terrible, aged years in months, her face drawn, her eyes red. "Can I come in?" He stepped aside, let her in. Didn't offer coffee, didn't make it comfortable. They sat in his living room in silence for a long moment. "You look terrible," Jolene finally said. "So do you. I brought you something." She handed him a bag. "From your father's things. Things I found in the attic after you left. Thought you should have them." Inside were photo albums. His parents' wedding, but not the fancy one in the living room at his mother's house. These were different photos, raw, real. Carrie flipped through them slowly. His parents young and in love, and in many of the photos, people he didn't recognize. Who are these people? My parents, my brothers, my sister, my whole family. Jolene's voice was quiet, heavy. They didn't come to my wedding. These photos were taken at the courthouse. Your father's friends were our only witnesses. Carrie looked up at her confused. My parents hated your father. Thought he wasn't good enough for me. Wrong background, no college degree, no prospects. Wrong religion. He was Protestant. We were Catholic. They told me if I married him, they'd disown me. Cut me off completely. Never speak to me again. Tears filled her eyes. I married him anyway, and they kept their promise. Disowned me. I didn't speak to my mother for 11 years, not until she was on her deathbed. And even then she never apologized, never admitted she was wrong, just died still believing she'd been right to reject the man I loved. Why are you telling me this? Because I became them. The tears spilled over. The people who hurt me so badly I couldn't forgive them even at their deathbeds. I became them. I did to Tamsin exactly what my parents did to your father. The cruelty, the rejection, the constant message that she wasn't good enough, that she didn't belong, that she was ruining you by existing. She wiped her eyes with shaking hands. I couldn't see it while it was happening. Or maybe I did see it and didn't care. I was so afraid of losing you the way I lost my family, so terrified you'd choose her over me, that I made you choose, forced your hand, and you chose wrong, and now we've both lost everything that actually mattered. Mama, your father fought for me, stood up to my parents, never backed down, never asked me to make myself smaller to please them. That's why I fell in love with him, his courage, his strength, his absolute unwillingness to let anyone tell him who he could love. She looked at Carrie with devastated eyes. And I spent our entire marriage teaching you the opposite, teaching you that keeping peace with me was more important than standing up for what's right. I made you weak, Carrie, deliberately, because weak men don't leave their mothers. And then I punished your wife for your weakness, blamed her for what I did to you. Carrie couldn't speak. His throat was too tight. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't forgive myself. But I wanted you to know I see it now. I understand what I did. To both of you. To your marriage. To my son. She stood, preparing to leave. And I wanted you to have those photos, so you could see your father's courage. The man he was before I broke him. Before I taught him that peace was more important than principle. Maybe you can be more like him than I let you be. After she left, Carrie sat with those wedding photos for hours, looking at his father's young face, the determination there, the courage it took to marry the woman he loved despite her family's hatred. The courage his father had that Carrie himself lacked. He gathered his 50 letters carefully, put them in a box, and made a decision. He couldn't give these to Tamsin, not yet, maybe not ever, but someone should witness his transformation. Someone should know he was trying. His father's sister, Aunt Grace, the one his mother had cut off for taking Tamsin's side, the only one in his family with any integrity left. He drove to her house that afternoon, knocked on her door. When she opened it, Grace looked surprised, then sad. Carrie. Aunt Grace, I need your help, and I need to apologize for not standing up for you when Mama cut you off, for being exactly the coward Dad knew I was. Grace stepped aside, let him in. He showed her the letters, all 50 of them, watched her read them one by one while he sat in silence, drowning in his shame. When she finished, she looked at him for a long time, studying him like she was trying to see if the change was real. You love her, she finally said. I never stopped. Are you doing this for her? Or for yourself? Both. Does it matter? Grace smiled sadly. It matters to her. She's too smart to come back to a man who only changed because he lost her. She needs to know you changed because you couldn't live with who you were. That's the truth. I can't live with who I was. That man in the mirror, the one who let his wife be destroyed to keep his mother happy. I hate him. I can't be him anymore. Then maybe, Grace said softly, there's hope for you yet. She took the box of letters from him. What are you doing? I'm going to give these to her. Not now, not yet. But when the time is right, when she's ready to see them without it destroying her all over again. She might not want them. She might throw them away without reading them. That's her right, her choice. But she should have it. Should know you're trying. Even if it doesn't change anything, even if she never speaks to you again, she deserves to know. Carrie nodded, unable to trust his voice. He left his 50 letters with Aunt Grace, his evidence, his confession, his desperate hope that someday, somehow, Tamsin might know he'd finally found the courage she'd been begging him to find all along, even if it was 3 years too late. Chapter 9. The Call. 6 months after New Year's, Tamsin's phone rang while she was working, unknown number. She almost sent it to voicemail, but something made her answer. Hello? Miss Barron? This is Grace Lemon, Carrie's aunt, his father's sister. Tamsin's breath caught in her throat. She remembered Grace, the only member of Carrie's family who'd been genuinely kind to her. who'd welcomed her without reservation, who'd stood up to Jolene once and been promptly cut off for choosing sides instead of supporting family. "Mrs. Grace, this is a surprise." "I know, honey. I'm sorry to call out of the blue like this, but I have something that belongs to you. Or rather, something Carrie wants you to have. I'm not entirely sure which." Grace's voice was warm but careful. "Could you come visit me? If you're comfortable. No pressure, no tricks, no ambush, just me, and something I think you need to see." Tamsin hesitated. Every instinct told her to say no, to protect herself, to maintain the walls she'd built so carefully over the past 6 months. But curiosity won, or maybe it was something else. Some part of her that still wondered if Carrie had changed, if he'd finally found his spine. "Is Carrie going to be there?" "No, honey. He doesn't even know I'm calling you. This is between us, woman to woman." A week later, Tamsin sat in Grace's living room. It was a comfortable space, full of books and photos, and the kind of warmth that comes from a life well lived. Grace brought tea, real tea, in china cups, the way Essie used to serve it. That small gesture made Tamsin's eyes burn. "Thank you for coming," Grace said, settling into her chair. "I wasn't sure you would." "I almost didn't." "I understand. What they did to you?" Grace shook her head. "I'm ashamed to share a name with them." She reached beside her chair and pulled out a box, set it on the coffee table between them. "Jolene brought these to me a few weeks ago. Found them in Carrie's apartment. She thought you should have them, but she didn't know how to get them to you, didn't think you'd accept them from her, so she gave them to me." Tamsin looked at the box like it might contain a bomb. "What is it?" "Letters. 50 of them, all addressed to you. None of them sent." Tamsin's hands shook as she reached for the box, opened it slowly. Inside, exactly as Grace described, 50 letters, her name on each envelope in Carrie's handwriting. "I'll give you privacy," Grace said, standing. "Take all the time you need. I'll be in the kitchen if you need anything." Alone in the living room, Tamsin pulled out the first letter, opened it with trembling fingers. She read them one by one. Each confession, each moment of clarity, each attempt to understand his own failure. Some made her cry, some made her angry, some made her remember why she'd loved him in the first place. By the time she finished, her tea was cold and the sun had moved across the room. Her face was wet with tears she hadn't felt falling. Grace returned with fresh tea, sat down quietly, waited. "He's really trying," Tamsin finally said, her voice rough. "He is. I've seen him, honey. He's different. Not the boy who let his mama run his life anymore. He's cut them off, going to therapy. Volunteered at your grandmother's church for months before the pastor told him maybe it was time to find his own church, his own path. He's reading his father's journals, learning who his father really was instead of who Jolene told him he was. Is he doing this for me, or for himself?" It was the question that mattered most, the one everything hinged on. Grace smiled. "That's exactly what I asked him. He said both, and I believe him. He's not trying to win you back, Tamsin. He knows that ship has sailed. He told me that himself. Said you're not coming back and he accepts it. He's trying to live with himself, to be someone his father would be proud of, someone you'd be proud of, even if you never speak to him again." Tamsin sat with that for a long moment, touched the pearls at her throat, feeling for Essie's guidance. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you deserve to know, whether you do anything with the information or not, whether you ever speak to him again or not. You deserve to know he finally heard you, finally understood, finally found the courage you were begging him to find for 3 years." They talked for another hour, about Grace's life, about Tamsin's business, about Essie, who Grace had known and genuinely loved. "Your grandmother came to Thanksgiving once, remember?" Grace said. "About a year into your marriage. Jolene was horrible to her, made comments about her dress, her accent, her food, and Miss Essie just smiled through it all, ate her dinner with her head high. Then when we were leaving, she pulled me aside, said, "That woman gonna destroy my grandbaby if somebody don't stop her. You see it, don't you?" I said I did. She said, "Then help her when the time comes, because it's coming." Tamsin's eyes filled with tears. She knew, even then. She knew, and she was right. I should have helped you sooner, should have stood up louder. I'm sorry I didn't. When Tamsin stood to leave, Grace hugged her tight. Your grandmother would be so proud of you, the woman you've become, the life you've built, the strength you found. I'm proud of you too. Thank you for that. Thank you for being kind when kindness was rare. Tamsin took the box of letters with her when she left, drove home in silence, her mind racing. That night, alone in her apartment, she read the letters again, all 50 of them, looking for lies, looking for manipulation, looking for any sign that this was just another performance. She didn't find it. What she found was real transformation, real pain, real growth. One line stood out from letter 50. I can't earn you back. I can only earn the right to be the man you deserved all along. He was right. He couldn't earn her back. Love didn't work that way. Trust didn't work that way. You couldn't shatter something that completely and expect glue and good intentions to make it whole again. But maybe there was a difference between earning someone back and earning the right to try. Maybe there was space between forever and never. Maybe there was something called second chances, even when first chances had been destroyed so thoroughly. She sat with her phone for hours, typed a message, deleted it, typed another, deleted it. Finally, early in the morning, when the sun was just starting to think about rising, she settled on something simple. Riverside Park, Saturday, noon. She sent it to Carrie's number, not knowing if he'd even still have the same phone, not knowing if he'd blocked her, not knowing anything except that she needed to see him, needed to look him in the eye and see if the man in these letters was real. The message delivered. Then, read. Her heart hammered in her chest. No response came. Just that single word, read. Tamsin set her phone down, touched her grandmother's pearls. I don't know what I'm doing, grandmother, she whispered into the darkness. I don't know if this is brave or stupid, but I need to see him. Need to look at him and know if he's really changed or if this is just another way of getting what he wants. The apartment was silent. No wind to carry Essie's voice. No sign from beyond. But Tamsin knew what her grandmother would say. Baby girl, you already know the answer. You just need to be sure. Go get your certainty. And then choose yourself again. Always, always choose yourself. I will. Tamsin promised the empty room. No matter what happens Saturday, no matter what he says or how I feel, I'm choosing me. I'm protecting me. I'm keeping me whole. She went to bed with Carrie's 50 letters on her nightstand and dreamed of riverside benches and impossible choices and love that might, just might, find a way to be brave enough this time. But she wouldn't know until Saturday. Wouldn't know if transformation was real or temporary. Wouldn't know if courage could be learned or if weakness was forever. Wouldn't know if some broken things could be mended or if they were meant to stay broken as lessons, as warnings, as proof that sometimes loving hard isn't enough. Saturday would tell her. Until then, she had to wait and hope and protect her heart like the precious, hard-won thing it was. Chapter 10. The Reunion. Saturday, Riverside Park, 11:30 in the morning. Carrie arrived 30 minutes early, sat on the bench where they'd had their first kiss 4 years ago, back when the world was simple and love felt possible, and he didn't know yet how thoroughly he could destroy something beautiful. The park was quiet. A few joggers, a family, with a dog. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that everything that mattered was about to happen right here on this bench. At exactly noon, Tamsin appeared. She walked toward him slowly, deliberately, wearing jeans and a simple white shirt and her grandmother's pearls. Her hair was pulled back from her face, no makeup, no armor, just her. She'd never looked more beautiful. She sat beside him on the bench, not close, a careful distance between them. Close enough to talk, far enough to run if she needed to. They sat in silence for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Finally, Carrie spoke. His voice came out rough, unused. "Thank you for coming. I know you didn't have to. I read your letters. All of them? Every single word." Silence again. A child's laughter floated across the park from somewhere far away, life moving forward while theirs sat suspended. "Why didn't you stand up for me that night?" Tamsin's voice cracked on the words. "At the dinner, when they said those horrible things, when your mother called me charity and your brother called me nothing, why didn't you say anything?" This was it, the question that mattered, the one he'd been asking himself every day for 6 months. Carrie turned to face her, forced himself to look her in the eyes even though it hurt. "Because I'm a coward. Because I thought if I kept the peace with them, I could keep you too. Because I was more afraid of my mother's disappointment than I was of losing you." His voice broke. "I was wrong. I failed you so completely. I failed us. And I've spent every day since trying to understand how I could love you so much and still hurt you so badly." Tears streamed down Tamsin's face. "I waited 3 years for you to choose me. 3 years of making myself smaller, quieter, less. Gave up my career, changed my hair, bit my tongue until it bled. And you never chose me, not once. You said you loved me, but you never fought for me." "I know. Love without courage is just pretty words, Carrie. Your father knew that. My grandmother knew that. Why didn't you?" "Because I grew up watching my mother control everything, watching my father give in to keep the peace. I thought that's what love was, surrender, compromise, making yourself small so the other person could be big. I didn't know it was supposed to be partnership, battle, standing beside each other when it's hard, standing up for each other when family turns cruel." He turned to face her fully now, let her see every ounce of his shame and regret. "I'm not asking you to come back. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't deserve either of those things. I'm just asking you to see me, the man I'm becoming. Not for you. I know it's too late for you. But for me. Because I couldn't live with who I was anymore." "What changed?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "I read your letters. The ones you never sent. And I realized you were screaming for help right in front of me. And I was too comfortable in my cowardice to hear you. You were drowning while I watched, and all I did was ask you to drown quieter, so you wouldn't disturb anyone." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, handed it to her. She opened it carefully, read silently. It was a letter he'd written to his father's grave, raw, honest, full of grief and understanding and shame. The last line, "I understand now, Dad. You weren't protecting your money when you gave Tamsin control. You were protecting her from us, from me. I'm sorry I made that necessary. I'm sorry I was exactly the coward you knew I'd be." Tamsin folded the letter carefully, gave it back to him. "I bought back my grandmother's house." His breath caught. "You did. I'm moving in next month, starting over where I started, where she raised me to be strong." "That's good. That's really good." "I'm not promising anything, Carrie." She turned to look at him finally, really look at him. "I'm not saying we can fix this. I'm not even saying I want to." "I know. But..." She hesitated, touched the pearls at her throat like she was drawing strength from them. From Essie. I need to paint the kitchen in grandmother's house and fix the garden. The roses need tending. Carrie's eyes filled with tears. I could help, if you want. I don't need your help. I know. But you can come, if you want to work for it. No promises, no expectations, no assumption that this means anything beyond what it is. Just work. We'll paint, we'll garden, we'll see what happens. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't even close. It wasn't reconciliation or reunion or any of the things he'd been secretly hoping for despite knowing better. It was just a door, barely cracked open, a sliver of light in absolute darkness. But it was more than he deserved, more than he dared hope for. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for not giving up on me completely, even when I gave up on you. Tamsin stood, looked down at him with eyes that had seen too much pain, but somehow still held possibility. I'm not doing this for you, Carrie. I'm doing this for me, because my grandmother taught me that everyone deserves a chance to grow. One chance. But this is your only one. If you waste it, I'm done. Forever. No more letters, no more chances, no more hoping you'll become who you should have been from the start. I won't waste it. We'll see. She started to walk away, then stopped, turned back. Chapter 6, Letter 32. You wrote that you wanted to be the man I saw in you the day we met. Do you remember what I saw? No. I saw someone kind, gentle, real, someone who laughed at his own jokes and wasn't afraid to be silly, someone who spilled wine on my dress and apologized 17 times, someone who made me feel like I mattered before I even knew if I loved him. Her voice softened, became almost tender. Find that man again, Carrie, not for me, for you, because he was worth loving. And I think maybe, he still is. She walked away. He watched her go, this woman who'd survived him, who'd survived his family, who'd survived everything and come out stronger and shinier than ever. Sunlight caught her grandmother's pearls as she walked. They glowed against her skin like promises, like hope. Like the possibility of something new built on the ruins of something destroyed. Or maybe not. Maybe this was just closure. Maybe Saturday at her grandmother's house would be one afternoon of painting and then goodbye forever. He didn't know. Neither did she. But next Saturday, he'd show up at that house with paintbrushes and courage and the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, some broken things could be mended if you were willing to do the work. If you were willing to be patient, if you were willing to earn back what you'd destroyed. One day at a time, one act of courage at a time, one moment of choosing right over easy. He sat on that bench long after she'd gone, watching the river flow past, thinking about his father's letter and Essie's wisdom and Tamsin's strength. And he made himself a promise. Whether Tamsin ever came back to him or not, whether they rebuilt their love, or just built a friendship, or just painted a kitchen and said goodbye forever. He would be the man she deserved. He would be brave. He would stand up. He would fight for what mattered. He would become someone his father would be proud of, someone Essie would approve of, someone Tamsin could trust, not to win her back, just to be worthy of having had her in the first place. Just to honor what she'd given him by becoming who he should have been all along, just to prove that people can change, even when it's too late, even when the damage is done, even when second chances are given reluctantly and might be taken away at any moment. He would be better, starting now, starting today, starting with painting a kitchen in a house where a strong woman once raised her granddaughter to never settle for less than she deserved. He stood from the bench, walked toward his future, whatever it held. The end.